And while Boris Johnson, as we heard, has predicted the end of coal, the Prime Minister Scott Morrison has rejected that claim, saying there will be a coal industry for decades to come. Mr Morrison also downplayed a key feature of the Glasgow Climate Pact of setting a more ambitious 2030 target by the end of next year.
Campaign mode begins to heat up. With COP26 now behind him, the Prime Minister hones in on a challenge that's much closer to home.
Do you regard yourself as the underdog of this election?
No, I think that's fairly clear. But I've been there before.
Morning, nice to meet you.
Both leaders sharpening their election pitches.
This is a government that is not fit for purpose for the 21st century.
It's the government's climate policy that has the Prime Minister on the defensive. Australia has agreed to the Glasgow Climate Pact, which calls on countries to strengthen and revisit 2030 targets by the end of next year. But Scott Morrison says he feels no obligation.
Well, all that happened at COP26 was all countries noted a request to revisit these things. But I've been very clear about what our target is and that we will meet and beat it.
The opposition says that's not sticking to the deal.
24 hours after the federal government signed up to having a higher 2030 target in 2022, they've walked away from that commitment.
By signing the Glasgow Climate Pact, Australia has signed up to an international agreement. Australia has a choice. It can now revisit its target and be among one of the leaders of global climate change, or it continues to be seen as a climate laggard.
A choice some Liberal moderates are grappling with, calling for a more ambitious medium-term target.
Well, I think 2030 has moved on, and next year we need to start talking about 2035. It is my hope by that point that we will be in a position as a nation to update our target to a higher one than we have now.
Australia wasn't one of the countries to make an 11th hour intervention on the final deal that softened the language around coal. Nonetheless, the change to, quote, phase down instead of phase out has some nationals relishing.
What you got happening here is our nation earning money. People overseas, they want to buy what's on there.
It's a big green light for us to build more coal mines, supply the world more coal.
A rosy outlook, despite the dire prediction from the UK's Prime Minister.
Do you agree that COP26 sounded the death knell on coal?
No, I don't believe it did. And for all of those who are working in that industry in Australia, they'll continue to be working in that industry for decades to come.
A global pact that's open to interpretation. Pablo Vinales, SBS World News.